Cortés watched her from a distance. They had decided to rest and wait for Diego de Ordaz's expedition to return from Popocatépetl. Cortés had sent 10 scouts under Diego de Ordaz's command to explore Popocatépetl up close. The volcano, according to what he had been told, had erupted several times in the past few years. For most of the conquistadors, the sight of an active volcano was something new that they did not want to miss. After he had rested, Cortés watched the cloud of smoke and ash that rose from the volcano. Then his glance turned to Malinali. Cortés watched her closely. With her eyes closed, huddled under a blanket lent to her by Bernal Díaz del Castillo, she seemed small, vulnerable, but still not far away from the truth. Hernán pondered on how admirable a woman she was. She had not complained once. She kept pace with all of them without uttering a word. She had never fallen ill, or wept, or become an annoyance. It was impossible not to compare her to his wife. Catalina Suarez was a weak and sickly woman who had not been able to give him children. He was sure that his wife, Catalina, if placed in the same position as Malinali, would already be dead. Cortés was in turn being watched by Malinali out of the corner of her eye. She didn't want to speak with anyone, so she pretended to be asleep. She didn't even have any energy to ask for help. She liked watching Cortés's body, his build, his strength, his courage, his audacity, his gift as a leader. Thousands of times, standing on the shore and meditating on the eternal return of the tides, she had wished for the return of her father or someone like him who could protect her. At that moment, she asked herself if Cortés could be that man, and she decided that he couldn't be. The protection that she longed for had nothing to do with her annihilation as a person. The protection and defense that the Spaniards said they would provide against false gods and pagan practices had more or less left them in a defenseless state, made them into weak children who did not know what was good for them and who needed someone superior to tell them. To be protected by Cortés would undeniably mark her as a weak and ignorant woman. But she was so tired that she did not want to think about anything except the sun. It was not in vain that her ancestors had said that first came the fire, and from it was made the sun, and from it mankind. The sun was fire in motion. She closed her eyes. The altitude was ravaging her well-being. She had a headache and felt that there was not enough air to breathe. She was as dizzy as when her grandmother lifted her by the arms and spun her around and around like the flying men of Papantla, those men who created beautiful dances in the air as they fell to the ground, held up by ropes tied around their ankles. There were 5 members altogether, of which 4 descended toward the ground, little by little, twisting and turning as they fell, while the 5th remained up above the great pole, signifying the center. The 4 dancers that flew through the air represented each of the cardinal points. Malinali saw them various times in her youth, and she loved when her grandmother made her into a flying dancer, grabbing her by the feet and making her spin. When her grandmother tired, she would spin and spin with open arms on her own till she grew dizzy and fell to the ground laughing. The grandmother explained to her that this happened because she had lost her center. God is in the center, there where there is no shape at all, no sound, no movement. Whenever you are dizzy, sit down, stop moving. Remain silent, and you will find our Lord there, in your invisible center, that which unites you with Him. We are like the beads in the necklace of creation. and we are joined one to the other, each taking up the place and space that corresponds to us. When you stumble to one side or the other, you alter the order of the skies, and the sky opens, the earth opens. When you get separated like that, you will not fall where you are meant to fall. You will not walk where you are meant to walk. You will not die where you were meant to die, because the cord has been broken, because everything is part of everything else, and everything affects everything else. Because of this, God grows sorrowful when we do not see Him, when we do not recognize Him, when we go through our lives with our backs to Him. Where is God? How can I see Him? To see the invisible is complicated, but you should know that He for whom we live is in the air we breathe, in each drop of water, each body, each plant, each animal, in all forms of His creation. In the center, in the invisible in all things, is where you can find Him. Each celestial body is united in its center with the other stars and with us. It's as if a silver string had linked us together at the time of creation. To see the invisible in others is to see God in them. To listen to the invisible in their words is to listen to God. To feel the water in the air before it rains is to feel God. It doesn't matter how different the faces that you see are, how different each one's song is. Beyond the body, beyond their words dwells the Lord of all things. That is why performance, song, movement, and everything we do is so important. If we do it according to our center, according to divinity, it will have a sacred quality. If we do it dizzily, it will throw us to the ground, cast us aside, disconnected from God. We all spin, each man, each moon, each sun, each star spins around its center. The movement of stars is sacred, and so is ours. It unites us to the same invisible. But perhaps the most important thing that her grandmother's knowledge passed on to Malinali was the notion that behind each divine representation, whether it be in paper, in stone, in flower, or in song, God dwelled. The shape, the color, and the sound that was chosen to represent them did not matter. My sweet Malinali, even before you took the shape of this body, you were already one with God, and you will remain so even when your form is erased from the earth. Later she continued, when I die, when I will be outside of time, it will be difficult to see me, to hear me, to feel me. And that is why I am going to give you this Tonantzin stone. She's our mother, and you can ask her whatever you desire. I will be dancing in the sky near her, and we will both be watching you. And now Malinali took in her fingers the ceramic bead necklace with the image of Tonantzin that she had made with her grandmother, and asked her that her center be restored, to control the dizziness that was driving her mad and to help her regain her well-being. There wasn't a long way to go before they reached the valley of Anahuac. She wanted to see it. She wanted to survive. After making this wish, her eyes closed. Malinali left her body and was converted into thought, idea, dream. She had no problem interweaving her thoughts with the other slaves, and she instantly experienced an unimaginable freedom. She knew that she had settled into another reality and that what she saw was part of a dream. But she also knew that in that dream she could discover a better reality, a reality more collective than individual. In her dream, she saw herself as part of a united feminine mind that was having the same dream. In the dream, a group of barefoot women walked over the ice of a river that had frozen at the moment the light of the moon had been reflected on its surface. The soles of their feet cracked open when coming in contact with the ice, and the wounds formed stellar maps. The light of the full moon fell forcefully on all of them, and they became one mind, one body. They were all one woman holding herself up in the wind and nourished on the faith of all who want to free themselves from the nightmare of sensation, of touching, of weeping, of loving, of bleeding, of dying, of having, and of letting go.